Am I right in saying no
Yeah.
other Irish person has done 8 PBPs?
No,
What's
no,
the
no,
next
no.
one? Do
There's a
you know?
few who've done. There'll be some her probably on. Would there be someone five? Yeah, there'll be someone five. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. 2000. Yeah, there'll be someone five. There's some who've done them all since
amazing. So,
2007.
Paul, I've done
Yeah,
2. So if you could stop now,
yeah.
I could maybe catch up with you, okay, in about 40 years' time. If you could
Sure,
do that for me,
sure.
okay. Well,
Yeah.
today we have Paul O'Donoghue, who lives in County Wicklow, Ireland. He wrote his first brevet in 1993 and since then has completed PBP an incredible 8 times. Paul has ridden many ultra events and has held the Irish record for most distance cycled for both 12 and 24-hour periods. He was also the holder of the Length of Ireland record. Paul, welcome. Thank you very much for
Thank you.
volunteering. I
Thanks,
really
Peter.
appreciate it. Okay.
Nice to
And
talk
nice
to
to
you.
talk to you. Okay. So I always start with this very first question. What does completing PBP mean to you?
Well, it probably means the same now as it did at the first time. I just like the idea of the adventure and setting out from Paris and going to the north, the coast, back to the Atlantic and back. Like everyone's on their own little journey, and it's chance of achievement at the end, and I like the preparation as well. Getting ready and
Yeah,
all. And that kind of knocking off the distances, the qualifiers, like preparation and all, and obviously the ambience of the whole thing and meeting a lot of like-minded cyclists.
yeah, yeah.
I would like to think.
And then, like, you did this, your first one in 1995, which that's the last millennium, by the way. Okay. That's a long time ago, right?
Yes, yes,
And you did
yes,
it
yeah.
every 4 years for 8 times, which is incredible. What was the very first feeling like when you crossed that finish line? Was it relief or
Well, you know what people say, like never let me do that again. But I was thinking, oh well, when's the next one?
I think, yeah, definitely,
Straight away, I just loved it.
completely.
I just thought it was great. Like, I just couldn't explain the feeling of just the joy and the happiness to be there and to be able to take part.
Definitely.
The gratitude to
Yeah.
be there and a sense of history and all attached to the
Yeah.
thing and all. And yeah, I would have had great admiration for the previous riders, like, and it was kind of simpler then, so it's obviously smaller numbers and
Yeah.
all, but it was just a nice sense of
Yeah,
community,
I'm going to ask you a random question. Like, a big part of it for me is just the people of Brittany. Like, it's incredible. Um,
Yeah.
it's also amazing to me. It seems very similar to Ireland. Do you feel that at all?
Well, I would, obviously we're all Celtic people, so yeah, funny, yeah. Yeah, a lot of people a lot of locals would comment when they know you're from Ireland, there would be a bond there
Yeah,
between Brittany and Ireland,
yeah.
and,
Like I grew up in County Limerick, and just that kind of agricultural. There's no pretension, right? Lots of tractors on the roads. It's very similar, I think. Anyway,
yeah,
cool.
yeah. Yeah, it is obviously a very agricultural area and obviously a very distinct area, their own language, their own culture.
Completely.
And I like it, I like it, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Obviously, you like it, Paul. You've been there 8 times. Okay. All right.
Yeah,
Can we
yeah,
go
yeah.
back maybe then to the start and tell me a little bit about your background in cycling, etc.?
So my background in cycling was kind of, I suppose as kids we always cycled. Then when I was going to school, I cycled. Then when I was going to work, I cycled. But I never saw myself as a cyclist per se. Like I didn't as a sporting cyclist or anything like that. It was just a practical thing, And I suppose people often ask me this, but I suppose when we were kids now, yeah, we'd might go off for the day cycling, no adults involved or anything. Like now it wasn't
Yeah,
far, it might be like sort of 15 or 20 miles. No one would have a clue what to do if you had a mechanical or
yeah,
anything. But I think it was just that getting out and that
really.
sense of independence and being under your own steam, getting there on your own time with your own effort. And I suppose it still appeals to me, like that's basically the essence of it. I
Yeah,
never had a car, like I never drove, like.
yeah.
So
And Paul,
yeah, and people be always saying in work and all, would you not get a car and all, And I think, no, I'm kind of happy with
I'm
doing what
with
I'm
you. I
doing,
don't like cars either. they're all very stressful.
Yeah, yeah. It
Yeah,
wasn't anti-car,
yeah.
and it was just I was just happy to do my own thing and all,
And Paul,
And ironically enough, like things have changed since now. A lot of people are cycling in
yeah,
Ireland, a lot
yeah.
more. Like it's great to see, like
Did
obviously,
you
like
grow up in Wicklow, or like what was your natural?
No, it'd be South County Dublin, but we're here about 3 decades
Yeah,
now, So yeah, I was never far from the. Even when I was living in Dublin, I was never far from open roads.
yeah, yeah.
And it's great now where we are now. Like I've got the coast down there, I've got the mountains up there, and it's good cycling country.
And
Good
could
cycling
you,
country.
like back then when you were cycling, when you were really young, could you even think about going up some of those hills, or you'd avoid the hills? Do you remember?
Yeah, no, it never bothered. Like I mean, it wasn't anything radical
Yeah,
now. It wasn't anything radical. But I think it was that sense of we're going here and we'll go under our own steam, like under our own leg power. And yeah, I think it was always there, that sense of getting the place,
yeah,
just going somewhere different.
really
We used to like just going somewhere beautiful, down to Powerscourt Waterfall or whatever, like,
amazing.
like
Yeah.
just places to see, like,
Yeah,
no adults,
yeah,
like I
it's funny.
said.
Last time I was back before PBP, I explored like Wicklow and Dublin, and I never
Yeah,
rode a bike in that part of Ireland before, and it is beautiful
yeah,
now. And there's this incredible cycling culture
yeah,
that's very like out here in San Francisco, really.
yeah. Well, Ireland's a small country, but there's like even like this summer I was seeing parts of it I've never
Yeah, that's
seen. So
great.
like it's the beauty of cycling. There's always something around the corner. There's always, I always say, if someone said, what kind of a cyclist are you? I'd always say, well, the one who wanted to know what was up that road,
I
like,
get you
you have to have that sense of curiosity. Like,
completely. Yeah,
I'm not really that bothered about what's and all that kind
yeah,
of stuff, like,
so true. Tell me then, how did you start getting into long distance and randonneering and all that? Do you remember how that happened?
Uh, well, I know people are going to find this hard to believe, like, but at the time you're talking about pre-internet, pre-technology, and I was actually in a bike shop in Dublin city centre,
Yeah,
and like there was an A4 tacked to the wall, and all the touring events,
yeah,
not only Audax events, but they were very small calendars back then. And I just said, oh, I'd like to do one of them, and that's how people publicise events there. They just stick them up in the bike
yeah.
shop now.
And
And Cycling Ireland, who are the
yeah,
governing body, they would publish like a booklet every year with the racing and the leisure events, but you had to go into bike shop and buy
yeah,
it. And I just saw an event and I went. I don't think it was actually an Audax event. Say it might have been a 200k, but it wasn't a specific Audax event. And then eventually I learned what Audax events were,
yeah.
and I just liked them. I just liked the idea.
And am I right in saying back then you were kind of outside the mainstream culture? Like you were pretty much a weirdo on a bike. Is that right?
Yeah, well, cycling in Ireland is always like it's always been
Yeah,
there, but it's not a mainstream. It's probably more mainstream
yeah,
now than it ever was. But certainly at the time, it was like, yeah, there was people that cycled, but it wasn't big, like. And then you obviously had the era in the late '80s where like Roche won the Tour de France, the Giro. Sean Kelly was there. So as a sport, cycling was quite popular,
yeah,
you know. But then it started when they retired. It kind of dropped off a lot, in the early '90s. It just dropped back to practically to zero, really, or
yeah.
probably to the people who are always doing it.
Cool. And like contrast it now to today, the randonneering scene, it's a big deal, I would imagine. It's grown a lot in Ireland or not?
Yeah, well, we kind of started off like I wasn't there at the time now. So the first Irish rider to do a PBP would have been
Wow.
1983, but they would have gone to do their four qualifiers in the UK. Then in '87 there was three people went, but they would have done the four qualifiers in the UK. Then by '88 there was an Audax Ireland. It was formed. So in the next one, I think we'd about 20 over 25
Yeah.
gone. So that was probably the height of it. And then cycling started. As I got interested, everyone else got uninterested. So come '95, there was still an Audax Ireland, and there was probably about six of us there,
Yeah.
And then after that, like it kind of fell apart. There was literally no one new coming through, like no
Yeah.
one now. So it fell apart, and I was still interested. I wanted to keep it going, but it didn't happen anyway. And it took a long time to get it going again, you know. So I was kind of instrumental in that. So around 1999, there was four of us went to the PBP, but there was no Audax Ireland, so we went under the AUK signed our cards for us
Okay.
basically, like so they were the qualifiers, and from 2000 on, so of the four who went in '99, there was none of them cycling the next year,
That's
you
so
know.
funny.
So I was on my own for a long
Yeah.
time, like
It's a recurring theme, Paul, for you, is it?
2003.
On your own.
Yeah, it is.
Swimming
Yeah, I suppose it
upstream,
is.
yeah.
Yeah. But I stuck
Yeah.
with it. You know, I always knew the time would come. I'm not, but there was some very, yeah, it was kind of frustrating and lonely at times. You know, like I remember doing events
Yeah.
now with one person on them. You know, and that someone you'd have to twist their
That's
arm to
so
turn
funny.
up. You know,
Am I right in saying no
yeah.
other Irish person has done 8 PBPs?
No,
What's
no,
the
no,
next
no.
one?
There's
Do
a
you know?
few who've done. There'll be some. Her probably on. Would there be someone five? Yeah, there'll be someone five. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. 2000. Yeah, there'll be someone five. There's some who've done them all since
Amazing. So,
2007.
Paul, I've done
Yeah,
2. So, if you could stop now,
yeah,
I could maybe catch up with you, okay, in about 40 years' time. If you could
sure,
do that for me,
sure.
okay. Well,
Yeah,
all right. Well, then, well, I suppose we talked about this, but how did you like originally hear the word Paris, Brest, Paris, PBP? Do you remember distinctly or not?
I can tell you
Yeah.
exactly where I heard it. So, like I said, I'd been riding a few events, and I met a guy who was John Bailey. He's well known in the States anyway. He's Irish, but he lives up in New England, Boston
Yeah.
direction. So I rode with him once or twice in a few of these, and John was very keen now, very keen. But unfortunately, he was moving to the States. So, but I met him in a bike shop, and he told me about that. He told me about Paris Press Paris. Now I'd probably only ever done a 200k at that stage. But the minute he told me, I says, "That's my idea what cycling is. You know, just the adventure
Yeah.
and the like that kind of awe of like riding through the night and all. You know." And I just the minute he said it, I said, and it was possibly 92 when he told me. And I remember thinking, oh, that's a long way away. But I just knew the minute he told me I knew I was going to
That's
do
great.
it, you know.
It must.
I sound hyper
Yeah.
confident.
Yeah.
I actually wasn't. But like,
Yeah.
I just knew it was my idea of what cycling was, you
You
know.
know, it must have been amazing, like pretty much being by yourself or very few other people in Ireland, and then you find yourself a PBP surrounded by, I assume it was in the thousands even then in 95, was it?
Yeah, like in 90, well, certainly in 95, I would have started. I always went in the 80-hour group. And yeah, so 95, there was only one group. There was only one group in the eight, like there was less than
Yeah.
500. Way less. And then in the next year, 99, it was still one
Yeah.
group. So then in 2003, it was two groups, but no one
Yeah.
knew. So Noel Simpson, he was a founder member of AUK, so he'd been given the unfortunate task of dividing the groups. And it was like people were shocked. Like, it's like, I'm not going in the first group and
That's
all, you
crazy.
know. And it was like, it was quite hairy.
Yeah.
Like people were like, their lives were changed. Like their mates were there and they were
Yeah.
there. And like poor old Noel he's like
Oh
Moses
my
there
God.
trying to,
That's
trying to
funny.
keep the
Yeah,
peace,
poor
you
guy.
know. I think he might have got
Oh,
rubbered for that
that's
task
funny.
now, you
That's
know.
funny.
Now he was a fluent French speaker
Yeah.
and obviously English speaker,
Do,
so
Paul, do you remember how, like, leading up to 1995, like, you did a qualifying series? Like, what was your
yeah.
strategy to do your very first one? Like, how did you learn about it? Did you train, etc.?
Well, I would have just literally rode a lot of miles, you know, a lot of miles, like nothing more
Yeah,
complex than that now, you
yeah.
know. And yeah, I did three 600s that year,
Wow.
you know,
Okay.
and most of them solo, you know. So there were so few people. Invariably, you were solo,
Yeah.
you know. And like
And like,
when we got to
yeah,
France, you
can
know, it was
can I
like,
ask Paul, like 600K in Ireland, you kind of run out of landmass after a while, do you? So, like, where would you go? Where would you go
uh,
exactly?
well, 600k, like at the time, they were all called, like, we weren't actually very exciting, really, the
Okay.
events, you know. That mightn't sound
Yeah.
great, you know, but it was kind of like, because the roads are obviously a lot quieter, we'd start in Dublin, head up sort of say to Cavan, And then you'd be going down main roads all the
Yeah.
way down to Waterford, across to Wexford, and back up to
Yeah.
Dublin via
Would you
via.
cross the border?
They
So
weren't that hard,
yeah,
like, to be honest
back
with you.
then the border was probably an issue, so you didn't go there maybe.
No, we would have crossed the
Okay.
border. Yeah, yeah. I remember doing 1,000 k one time and stopping at the border to get our
That's
card
funny.
stamped and getting a cup of tea off the off the soldiers, because they were very bemused by us coming up now. You know, that was on the Republic
Yeah.
side now. You know, like, but they were like, "I have a cup of tea," and all. Ah, yeah, sure, why not? You know, it's about 2 in the
Yeah.
morning and all. You know, different time. Obviously, there's no border now.
So
You know,
true.
so it was, yeah, no, but no, there was Ulster has always Northern Ireland's always had a strong cycling culture,
Okay.
stronger than down
Oh,
here,
that's
like, you know.
interesting. Yeah,
So yeah, no, there was there was good crowd. But yeah, we would have crossed the border a good bit, like,
I
you know.
get you.
It's no big deal, you
And
know.
then your first attempt, were you trying to do it in a certain time or you were just trying to finish
No, I
it?
wasn't. I was just trying to get around. Now I
Yeah.
was just trying to get around. You know, I really didn't. I done it. I had 1,000 k before, but I really, like most people, you know, who do their first PBP, like, it is a bit of baptism of fire now, no matter how fast you
Yeah.
are, you
Yeah.
know, or whatever, you know. Even I'd say it's even worse for fast people because they're going with set ideas, and all of a sudden, like, I'd say for them, it's not, a lot of time it's not going to work out,
Yeah.
like, you
And
know.
actually,
You meet very few people who said, "Oh God, I was in 10 hours before I thought I was
that's
going to
so
be."
true.
Like, it's usually the other way around,
And
you know.
actually, on that point, what do you think slows or what slows people up? Like, if you're a fast rider, why do you suddenly find yourself that was tougher than I thought?
Um, I'm not talking about
Okay,
myself.
of course.
I'd never see myself as a
Okay.
fast rider, you know. I think a lot of people go, and particularly in recent years, since it's become more popular, like, people are hearing, and they're like, doing kind of sportives and things like that, and they're kind of competitive, and they go and they think, "Oh, I'll be going. It'll be like a road race. They'll be all helping each other and all," and it's kind of like, you know, then, you know, the classic, you don't reach your target, you don't reach Brest in
Yeah.
time, or you think you're going to be there next time and you're not, and it's like, "Oh, I'm going home." These guys don't know how to ride, and it's, you complain about all the
Yeah.
others, you know. Like, you see that a lot, like, you know, guys who are incredibly fast,
Yeah.
but that isn't necessarily my idea what Audax is like,
Yeah.
you know. I'd be kind of, at heart, I'm a cyclo-tourist,
Yeah.
like, you know, and I just see this as an extension of that, like, you
And
know.
Paul, not to contradict you, but let me look at the times, 2003, you did it in
Yeah,
51 hours and 1 second. That's pretty fast.
yeah, yeah, it was,
Yeah.
I suppose, like, yeah, it was great though, you
Yeah.
know. But, you know, like a lot of things in life, you know, I was probably, yeah, I was fairly handy then, back then now, you know, and like a lot of things in life, you know, I probably thought, okay, the next one's going to be like sub
Yeah.
50, but
Not a chance.
that never
Yeah.
happens, you know. So the idea, the lesson there is always appreciate what you
Yeah.
have in your, what you're doing, you know. Like, you gotta, I really think it's important to come back
Oh,
happy, like, you
completely
know.
agree. So going back to that first one, maybe tell me, first of all, were you riding by yourself or you had one or two friends? All right. Okay.
No, no, no. I was the only one from Ireland
Okay.
in that group
Okay.
anyway. So, and yeah, we just went out, and I normally ride on my own.
Yeah.
Like, I'm always happy on my
Yeah.
own, you know. And yeah, I don't really remember riding with anyone else, to be honest
And
with you, you
do you
know.
remember like the sleep situation, the food situation, anything else?
Yeah, well, the guy who was running Audax Ireland then, who was like, he was a strong
Yeah.
character, you know. And I suppose I was young, and I knew no different than he had done it, so I was very much under what he said I was going to do, you know. So he said, what you do is you ride to Brest, you have a shower, you sleep for a few hours, and then you come
Yeah.
back, you know. And I literally did that, you
Yeah.
know.
Sounds
Whether I
simple.
wanted a
That's a
shower or not, I
simple
was doing it.
strategy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And then by the next one, like, which is 4 years later, I did the exact same, you know. I said, ride to Brest and have a shower. And I remember coming into Brest, and it was daylight and all. And, like, I remember I was with a few other guys, like, and we were all going well together. And we was chatting away, talking. It was all friendly and all. And the guy, I think he was a Spanish guy, and he says, "But why are you stopping?" You know, and I says, "Well, I was told to stop, you know." But come the next one, I just said, "I'm just going," you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
So I suppose, yeah, yeah, you got to make your own decisions up. Like, people are going to tell you what to do, but you got to do what works for you, you
So
know.
true. So
I'm not saying it wasn't bad advice, but like as you get more experience, you got to make your own decisions too.
Yeah.
Like, you know.
And I'm sure over the 8 years, or maybe even the first time, the 8 times, did you have any low moments?
Um. Well, I've always enjoyed it, you know, but yeah, there's time like the obvious ones when you're falling asleep, you know, like you know,
Yeah.
and 2007, which is, I mean, it's like always been known as the wet
Yes.
one, you
Okay.
know, like that was tough, like you know, that was
Yeah.
tough, you know, and I was coming off the back of like a fast one, and you know, I was thinking this will be good and all, you know, and like it was really, I found it hard,
Yeah.
like, you know, it was tough. It was so hard at night and all, you know, that the rain was so bad, like you couldn't see anything and
Yeah.
all, like, and
And then
it's just tough, you
Paul,
know.
during like 8 times, first of all, is amazing to be able to complete it 8 times because anything can go wrong. Like, were there any times that
Yeah.
maybe your finishing was in doubt, or you've just been very lucky?
I've been lucky now. I've been
Yeah.
lucky. I've never had major injuries or gastroent or stomach issues or
Yeah.
something. Never on PBP, like, you know,
Yeah.
never. Like, you know, so I suppose I have had luck on my side in that sense now, you
Yeah,
know.
it is interesting
So,
because I do have a few friends as well who've been there multiple times and they're strong riders, but their bike breaks or it doesn't get delivered in time and they have
yeah.
issues. So it's a lot about luck
Yeah.
to be able to build that eight.
No, look, you definitely need luck on your
Yeah.
side. Everyone needs luck, like, you know.
Have you ever met?
Like to be
Yeah.
riding, to be trying to ride to your time, irrespective if that's like 60 hours or 90
Yeah.
hours, you need luck on your side, you
Have
know.
you ever met anyone with more PBPs?
Oh yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I know Richard Leon, who's done I think 12.
Wow.
You know, I would have met him at
Wow.
LEL. So in 2001, and we all stayed in contact now. You know, so he'd be a very impressive
Yeah.
cyclist. And because I'm the ACP rep for Ireland, so post PVP I always try and go to the ACP meeting in Paris in
And that's
January.
cool.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I would have met Jean Claude Chabaran. He's done the only person to do
Wow.
12,
And how old is
complete
how
12 now, complete
okay,
12.
how old is he?
He's a really nice guy. Like I'd met him a few
Yeah.
times, you know, like and the first thing that always strikes you, which I think is something we could all learn from, he's always
Yeah,
smiling.
that's good.
So, so I
Yeah.
think he's a lesson to us all
Yeah.
there, you know. But I think he said he was 70. I said, would you go again, you know? And he said, I think he either said he was 74 or
Yeah.
76. So he reckoned he wouldn't, you know.
Oh,
He reckoned
wow.
that was
Wow.
his threshold.
Oh, cool.
Now there is someone who's done 13, but I think they were unsuccessful in two of them. They didn't finish them or didn't get in
Yeah.
time, you know. But he has done them all, you
And
know.
you're still
Very honourable,
yeah.
admirable characters,
Yeah.
like you
And
know.
Paul, you're still a young man, 59, right? I
Yeah,
I normally
yeah.
ask this towards the end, but, like, how many times do you think you could keep going? Um,
Well, I'd never see a reason to stop unless, like, the only reason I'd stop is if I didn't enjoy it, you
yeah.
know. And I really don't see that happening, you know. I can't see that happening anytime soon, if at all, you know. So, but who knows, you know, like you know, health. You have to have the health as well. But yeah, certainly the mind
Yeah.
is very keen
Yeah.
now, you know, very keen.
You know,
Yeah,
I have heard from other people as they get older, like night riding, eyesight is an issue. Anything you think
yeah.
that could, like, apart from the obvious physical, is there anything else that could slow someone down or make someone stop over time?
Well, I've kind of been lucky so far, you know. So in that I'll always go through one night, okay, like you
Yeah.
know. And there was a time I could go through two nights. Haven't done it for a while. I don't know if I can, but I don't know if that's because I physically can't or I just don't have the hunger anymore,
Yeah.
like you know.
And then
So I'm never quite sure if that comes because you just don't want to punish yourself that more, or you physically can't do it,
I
you know.
get you. And obviously this have PBP is every 4 years. So between those during those 4 years, you do a lot of riding, isn't that right? Like, so you do a lot of other long distance events. Yeah.
Yeah, no, the last few years have been great. Now, last few years have been great, you know. So I've done a lot now. I was in Greece this year, and I got an SR. I did. They had a series. They had 6 200s in a row,
Wow.
like, and then I got an SR 600 done afterwards. And then we did 2000k
Yeah.
here in Ireland, and yeah, the last few years have been good. Like,
That's amazing.
they were good, but like the things people that mightn't understand is like 30 years ago, there was very few
Yeah.
events. So when I did my first PBP, when I went to the next one, I hadn't ridden anything like that. Now, I hadn't even ridden 1000k in between. So like it was kind of, you're going through the first controls and you're
Yeah.
thinking, all right, it's coming back to me now. What am I supposed to be doing here? Like it was only really Boston, Montreal, Boston, and LEL maybe, and now like the sky's the limit.
Yeah.
You could be right. You could do one every month of the year
That's
nearly
amazing.
somewhere.
And tell me, just a general question, like as you get older, like physically, what changes? You know what I mean? Like, what have you noticed? Like, I would
Um,
imagine in some ways nothing's really changed, but then in other ways it has changed.
yeah. Well, I presume I'm slower. I suppose like I suppose in the last one, yeah, or I kind of made I thought like, well, I don't want to be out there in the middle of nowhere. Like, say it was about an 80k leg, and I kind of says, well, I'm going to sleep here, and it's 12 o'clock, at midnight, say, and so I'm stopped for about 3.5 hours, but I wasn't actually tired, so I don't know if that was going soft or
Yeah.
just or just I not wanting to suffer, whereas before I would have, and even on the last two LELs, I was just happy to finish
Okay.
really. I was just happy to be there and to be finishing, and like there's a stop about 50k out, like, and like I stopped both times. I was with someone else, and he said, "Ah, sure, we lie down for a while," and I says, "Ah, sure."
Yeah,
Whereas younger, there was no way I
that's
was
funny.
stopping like
Yeah.
50k from the finish, no matter what time it
Yeah.
was, like it just wasn't going to happen. Like, but I still haven't worked out whether that's a lack of hunger or a lack of fitness, or
Yeah.
whatever.
And tell me, over the 8 years, how has your strategy evolved for PBP?
Well, it's always the same, more or less, like I'd say my strength is I can go a long time at my own pace, whether that pace is good or bad. I can just keep pushing away at my own pace now. I know a lot of people do speed
Yeah.
training and all, but like I'm always happy to ride on my own. I'm happy. I don't really go surfing for other people or anything. So in 2019, it was really, really windy, and I thought, oh wow, this is a long time to be in a
Yeah.
headwind. And so I made a big stab to kind of stay with other people for the start, or like to as close as you get to Brest as I could now, And I was kind of, I think I burnt a lot of matches, and so whenever I let them go, like whenever I was on my own, I was really struggling on the climbs now, and I just knew that wasn't a good thing to do,
Yeah.
So on the last one, I was very, very conscious of that now, and I after about 40k, I says, "Here, I'm out of here." I just said, "Go
That's
ahead," like,
funny. Yeah.
And the funny thing was, loads of people came up behind me then,
Yeah.
and we actually worked okay then, probably better than I've ever ridden in a group, like, like, so I don't know how that happens, how there were so many people behind me,
Yeah.
because I know people say it's really like the Tour de France at the
Yeah.
start and all, but like it is, and you're hanging on, and then like a car comes, and then the thing has to squeeze together, and you get back on then,
Yeah.
So I just said, don't hang
I
on,
get
like,
you. What
like I was very conscious of not
and
like
smart.
going too fast at the start,
Oh,
like,
and what about like food and sleep? Has that strategy changed much
uh,
over the times?
well, I'd obviously bring something to eat with me, and keep uh, keep nibbling away, like, and like the fast ones. I was certainly the fast one, the one in 2003. I probably only sat down 3 times in a 24. So it was like breakfast, dinner, and lunch. And I was, because there's less people, and I suppose you're that bit ahead of everyone else. And I was just taking sandwiches with me,
Yeah.
So I was saving a lot of time in the
I get
controls,
you. Okay.
saving a lot of
Okay.
time, you know. But I would say you also miss a lot of the atmosphere as well,
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's something to be conscious of as
It
well,
is
like,
true because the atmosphere is
So,
amazing.
it is
Yeah.
true, like, I remember I kept finishing, and there was no one there, like, I kind of came in at about 9:30 at night, I think it
Yeah.
was. and there was no
That's
one there,
crazy.
like, and it's like,
Yeah.
okay, go back to the hotel.
I'm also
But
interested in bike equipment. Like since you started,
yeah,
have things changed in some way?
yeah, well, like I'd probably say the great. Well, obviously, when I started, the mudguard rule was
Oh, okay.
mandatory.
Yeah.
So I think it was a different kind of. I think when they did away with that, there was a different kind of class of cyclists. It kind of became more sporty. Whereas I think before there was more like I'd say a lot of people were coming from touring backgrounds. Now there's a there's a big emphasis on fast times and all now. Which might sound hypocritical, but that's just something I wanted to
Yeah.
do. And whereas I don't, but that's life. Humans are all people are always want to go. But I'd say the greatest technological change was lighting.
Yes.
Like when we went first, well, I always use a dynamo, but like it was a bottle cage dynamo, and the lights were
Yeah.
brutal. So I think it was the turn of the millennium. Someone invented a halogen
Yeah.
bulb, and it was like when you had to get a halogen bulb to put in your dynamo, and the difference was like
Yeah.
unreal.
That's funny.
you know. And then like LED lights came in, and the technology just was amazing. Like it
Yeah.
just really came along so well. So much so like that I remember riding a 1200 in Australia, and me bull blew, and like, you couldn't actually get one in Australia,
Amazing.
and
Amazing.
like I had to someone had to go off.
Yeah.
Someone knew someone who had one of these
Yeah.
2.4 watt bulbs.
Crazy.
No, they were three. That's what they were. A dynamo only had the could only give out three watts, wasn't it? 3 watts. So
Yeah.
these ones were 3 watt bulbs, so you had to use a LED light at the
That's
back,
cool.
and like having the extra 0.6 watts was like
That's
amazing,
crazy.
And that was the funny thing, like when you'd be coming back from
Yeah.
Brest, like so you're going to pass like 150k of cyclists, 150 kilometers of, and you just be blinded as the years went by. It was like it's getting
That's
dangerous,
funny. Yeah, it's funny. Um,
Yeah, and that was really
yeah.
noticeable as the technology picked up,
Paul, I should have asked you this. How
Uh,
many 1200 Ks have you done total?
I don't really know. Like I suppose I've 5 LELs, 8 PBPs. I've probably three or four here. I'm not a prolific rider,
Yeah.
I like the experience of doing stuff, but I wouldn't be necessarily counting them or
Yeah.
anything. Like I do know that it's all there somewhere. I've done thousands in Spain, Portugal, Italy.
Wow.
Done a 1200 in Australia. Done a bit of cycling in Sweden.
That's
But yeah,
crazy.
no, I
Yeah.
just yeah.
And tell me, just sorry, back to PBP over those 8 times. Is it still the same event that you remember from the first time? Has it got better in some ways? Has it got worse? Any comments about how it's evolved over those many years?
Yeah. Well, obviously it got faster, and yeah, but I think the for me it's always going to be the same,
Yeah. Yeah.
because but yeah, some of the stuff is a bit crazy, like the try bars,
Yeah.
like 'cause I don't remember anyone asking for the try
That's
bars,
funny.
So I was thinking, well, why are you putting them
Yeah.
in? So
Yeah.
I just think it sends out a different vibe,
Definitely.
different message,
Definitely.
But obviously, like it's great to see. Like I mean, it's great to see other countries, the expansion of it and all,
Yeah.
and the interest
Ha,
and all,
ha,
But for me, yeah, it's just I'm still more or less. I didn't really go with technology. I still use a steel bike with mudguards
nice.
and dynamo and triple at the front. Like it's still more or less the
I like
same.
it. And tell me, have the people along the roadside, have they changed over those 8 times?
Um, there's probably more now, but no, the vibe, the atmosphere is always the same. It's always very special. Like it's hard to explain to people who've never been
Yeah,
there, like what
I
it's like.
agree. Yeah.
But
Like
yeah, no, it's what makes it magical.
completely.
It is what makes it magical.
Yeah, like
I remember doing an event in called the Ardèche was. Now it's not an Audax event, like so it was a kind of 3 day
yeah.
event, and it was tough, But we stopped every night, but and the villagers fed you all the way around, and they were so happy to see you, But I also said it was like doing the PBP without the sleep deprivation,
Yeah.
So they do community well in France now.
Yeah, I think that's the amazing thing. Like you've done a lot of other 1200 Ks and it's really about the distance, the scenery, but with PBP it's the people and the culture as well. Like that's the amazing thing about it.
Yeah, no, it's a great introduction to France now, and I just all those volunteers and all, it's and the support, like it's amazing,
Cool. So before I ask you for those 3 tips, Paul, anything else I should have
Yeah.
talked about or asked you about your 8 visits?
Try just have to look at my notes now.
That's okay. We
Sorry,
got time. Don't
sorry
worry
about
about it.
this. Yeah. Well, I think a really important thing is always come away satisfied. So sometimes you got to dig deep. You got to dig deep now, and I've obviously been involved in organising a lot of events over here, and like sometimes you see people and they're like they're not actually that, like, especially if you come back to the same hub and they just get up in the morning, they're not going to go out, like, and they're like, I think, oh my god, there's people that are killing themselves, they're still out, they haven't even come in yet, you've had 6 hours sleep and you're not going back out
Yeah,
and all. I think you really got to focus
clearly.
on finishing it, and all that'd be personally for me,
Like
like,
I remember seeing
very
yeah, I
important.
remember seeing people and it looked like a death march. There wasn't a lot of joy in it, right?
Yeah,
It was they wanted to prove
yeah,
their
yeah,
manhood or something. I have no idea, but it's the weirdest vibe, I
yeah.
thought.
Yeah. Well, personally speaking, like our like over here, in Ireland, like I mean, we certainly wouldn't be the fastest now, by a country mile now. Like no one's really, but like we'd always try and encourage people to finish it out now,
Cool.
So I'd have the height of admiration for people who finish out a time, like,
Definitely.
I'd have more respect, I'd have more admiration for them than people coming in 45 hours, to be honest
That's
with you,
true. Okay, well then, Paul, we're going to end then with me asking you for those 3
Yeah.
tips, and this is tips from someone who's done it 8 times in some very fast times. Um, and these will guarantee a finish for anyone. So as I tell people that they're going to come looking for you if it doesn't work out, okay? All
Okay,
right, so
okay,
number 1,
okay.
Paul.
Yeah. Well, number one is like you got to think big. Like, so I always say here, this is your Olympics. It's only gone on every 4 years. You've put in a huge amount of time and effort to get there. So you got everything you do, you got to think big. Like, so never hold back. And it's, when you need to arrive a few days early, because like over here you've ferries like to France and people are arriving on Saturday night, and I'm thinking, what are you doing, like, are you
Yeah.
nuts, like, there could be something wrong with your bike, like, and all, so I always think it's always very important to arrive early. And then, like, financially, like, as well, like if it's a difference between sharing a hotel with someone who snores and having a single room, go for the
Yeah.
single room, so I just say, think of the Olympics, and I always think, I know people are a certain age and they're thinking, oh, well, I'm only 35, I'll have loads more of these, but you mightn't,
Yeah.
you never know, one never knows what's going to happen in life. So always remember that, like, I might never be here again, and that might just spur you on to finish it out, like, if you're having a hard time,
Great tip. Yep.
and yeah. And the other thing is, like, obviously everyone's going to go through a low period, and easy to say when you have time, but I mean, in my opinion, there's very few problems can't be solved by stopping and sleeping and
Yeah.
eating and gathering your thoughts, and then if you're feeling low, if you're thinking I'm out of here, like, go 10k beyond the control and then make your decision. And if you go out 10k and you're not enjoying it and you're thinking, no, it's not happening, but
Yeah.
you could think it's not the end of the world. I'll keep going,
Smart. Yeah.
because like if you pack, like, you still to get back to, just to be on the practical, you've still to get back to Paris, like, which could take a lot longer to do the cycling,
Yeah. So true.
Yeah, they might have been a bit negative, actually. So the other one, like what we always say in Ireland, like, we always say, always finish smiling.
Cool.
So you got to remember why you're there. You're there to do it, and to enjoy yourself. So it's always important, like, not to come back and say, I should have, I could have, I would have. It's just, this is the time you're there. You have that 90 hours or whatever, and it's just about managing that time and making the most of it. And enjoying it.
Paul. Yeah.
And doing the best for you,
Yeah.
like,
Paul, you're very wise. Okay. Really good tips. I appreciate it. And obviously,
Don't know about that, like,
obviously, you have a certain amount of credibility when you give these tips. Really enjoyed talking to you. Okay.
No bother,
Okay.
Peter. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's
All
nice
right. Nice
talking to you.
talking to you.